What do you think is different about being a teen in 2017 compared to the previous generations? What would you like older generations to understand about those differences? What do you think makes you different?
We've got more freedom than the older generations. Like, they didn't have as much as we do now.
Yeah? In what way?
Like, the way we were allowed to dress, because older ones, they had strict codes, I guess, to the way they were allowed to dress.
Yeah?
Yeah. The world's smaller and it's more accessible for kids, and you don't have to wait till you're old to travel the world and stuff like that, which is so cool.
Yeah.
And there's a lot better communication between people from like all different nations and cultures, and you can get to see what life's like elsewhere.
And what's facilitating that communication and that making the world smaller? What's making that possible?
Technology.
Yeah.
And that helps as well as not just even learning things about people from different cultures, just different kinds of people, is that you learn about that not everyone's the same, but you don't just learn that, you get to talk to them about it, you get to obviously just a greater wealth of information.
And I learned Japanese at school, and I have lots of Facebook friends from when I went over there as a school program, like Sam was saying, and yeah, I can speak to them in Japanese, and that's really cool.
I think another aspect is the whole same-sex topic, because the fact is that we've got so many supportive programs and that we're in a time of change, and the fact that a lot of people think that it's okay to change, and obviously that's always been man's greatest fear, and the fact that we're able to start overcoming that through different forms like technology. There's now videos, there's now just more communication, that so you never feel like you're alone no matter how different you are, and I think that's like one of the biggest social changes. That's the best thing about being in 2017.
Yeah. Where'd you go, Eliza?
I went to Norway.
Why?
I just wanted to experience something different from Australia in terms of climate, architecture as well, and the way their politics work as well. They don't have a larger population as we do. They could fit into New South Wales. So yeah, that was very good.
And how do you feel travel enriched your learning?
So I had to go all on my own on a plane and change at Dubai airport. So that was...
How old are you?
I was 15 when I did it, so yeah. So it was amazing, yeah.
I'm 37, I'll be scared.
It's a lot easier to learn new languages, but it's also easier to lose touch with people with gaming. Also, social media, you can spend all your time on that and lose touch with actually communicating with people, I find. At least some people.
Do you find that, do you know of anyone your age who is not at all on social media?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How prevalent is it? How common is that?
Not very.
Not
But
really.
not very
One
common.
It's a
person.
very
I'm
rare
a
sight.
single person.
Yeah.
Always singular person, but
I know 2 people.
Okay.
The advancement of technology, that seems to be one of our biggest strengths, but also how open we are with having all the new rights come in, and same-sex marriage in Australia. We tend to be more open about that than older generations are.
When you say openness, what do you think has created that openness?
I guess learning about it in school as well. We have different groups from school that you can go to at lunchtime to feel included in things and that as well.
Okay.
yeah, and even in the curriculum, because obviously it changes so often now, in things like PDHP, we don't only learn about accepting people for whatever they identify with, but also things like with mental illness, because all of those topics that were shied away from before, but now we're actually getting taught that in school, and that we're getting taught that, you know, you have to be open-minded because that's what today's society is like, and that's what our biggest strength is that we're being taught that from a young age, and so it's so much easier to be able to travel to new places, because otherwise that wouldn't have been possible because we would have been too close-minded to do that. Like that education is what made it possible.
Yeah.
And then on the mental health side, we're kind of the first generation that has accepted it and not pushed it down. And you've got posters all over the school for like Beyond Blue and anxiety, and it's like a normalized topic. And as much as it has been romanticized in some aspects, it's more sought after for a solution than it was before. Like, I have a brother and a sister that are like 2 years older than me, and their generation has been like, it's pushed down. Like, still today they have like the effects that it's, you hide it, but we're like open, which is a bit cool.
Yeah.
More people are realizing that, like, coming to know that they might have, like, be one of the people who have certain issues like mental illnesses, or some person who might identify differently to others, and it's becoming more common, and people are beginning to realize because of the education, and it's just becoming more normal in society.
It's easy for people to be who they are without getting criticised by others about it.
Transportation.
Yeah, transportation seems to be a big one.
Like
because,
access to
Entertainment.
Recreation.
entertainment
yeah,
Okay.
there's not too many things specifically for
and education.
teens to go to that where they can have fun and
Yeah, like even in Richmond,
at least
they
in a
have
safe place.
in Richmond they have like the cinema, but even then they only have two. They only have like two theaters in themselves, like, and they don't always like show movies during the holidays or anything that are more open to our like age bracket. Yeah.
And I find that there's very little, like on the west of the Hawkesbury River, like all my friends and stuff, if they're going to some recreational place, they'll go to Penrith or Rouse Hill, and that's like half an hour, like 40 minutes away
Yep.
from us. So
You have to have your parents drive you around places
Yeah.
until you get your P's.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because
or a bike.
That back doesn't really work.
Move up a hill.
yeah.
I live 2 kilometers away from like the nearest bus stop, and like even with school, like getting off the bus I have to walk home from there, and then so like it's hard to even just catch a bus down to like North Richmond and just hang around there and get like something to eat or anything, or meet up with friends. It's just kind of hard to do.
You don't really have a choice not to get your license when you live out here,
Yeah.
so you kind of have to get around
You
places.
pretty much rely on a car to get around to because
Yeah.
everything's so spread out, everything's really far away.
Yeah. What would you introduce or change or suggest?
Possibly another bus on Sundays in midday time, so you can go down and don't have to spend the whole day down in Richmond or North Richmond.
Yeah, like on my road, I get 1 bus a day, and if you want to go somewhere, then you can go there, but you can't come back because it's like 1 bus a day.
One ticket. Okay.
I personally do, because my handwriting's extremely bad because I have dysgraphia. But the school helps with that with given me a scribe or a computer to work on,
Okay.
and that tends to really help with actual marking so that teachers can read it.
Okay.
Dysgraphia is specifically handwriting coordination, so how well I can write. I would have always had it, but only found out recently this year,
Okay.
and I got marked down for handwriting previous years, but now because I can get a scribe or use a computer, it can improve my marks, and
It's empowered you to actually, it's given you equity, I guess.
yeah.
Yeah.
Personally, I think Colo does it pretty well, but other schools could follow in the footsteps of Colo and give them maybe a period to actually help learn. Like with me having to use a scribe, I sometimes get one period of English and get to test out using a scribe, so I know how fast to speak, when to insert full stops while actually saying it, and taking a new paragraph.
Yeah. Anyone else? Any other kinds of differences that you can think of?
I think they should, they do have, sometimes they have separate classes and things like that, and most of us do what's known as peer literacy or peer numeracy in the mornings in roll call, and we help out kids that have difficulty with maths or with reading and writing and things like that. And I think programs like that really help the kids sometimes, and especially when they want to learn how to understand, because sometimes in high school they tend to get left behind a little bit. If you don't know what you're doing, then you kind of have to figure it out yourself. And also with I also think they shouldn't demean people by segregating them and saying that you have a learning difficulty, you should be in a different class kind of thing. I think it should be more discreet assistance, so it's not degrading the children and stuff like that.
Yeah, with what Heather was saying about peer literacy is, with the peer programs, is that everybody knows about them in the school, and they know that it's just a little bit of extra help in the morning. It's not sort of made into a bigger deal, so then, it does feel normal. It does feel like just something that helps you out a little bit more. So if there were things like that, they were a lot more open in a way, just that were more little things that help people out, because with someone who had say something like ADHD, that's always sort of dealt with in private, whereas if they just had something in roll call that wouldn't disrupt their time, just to help them focus, just maybe little games and things like that, because then they feel like everyone else, because it's just something that, it's just something extra. It's the same as peer literacy, same as peer numeracy. It's just something extra that you can do to help out, and it's more sort of collectively known about and not really shied away from. And that's what I think is why it's so successful, because the kids don't feel bad about being there. They just think, okay, I'm going to do a bit more reading just to make it a bit easier. They know it's helping them.
And it's testimony to how great an environment it is that it's all opt-in, people choose to do it. There's a lot of access to help at Colo, everyone's willing to help, and if you ask for help, then it will be given to you. These kids ask for better maths, and in the afternoons there's tutoring by maths teachers. They'll help you with your homework, and you can volunteer some of your time and they'll help you get better.
Yeah.
But you've just got to make that step to volunteer, and the environment is so helpful that people are willing to make that step.
Yeah. We know what the people being helped are getting out of it. They're getting practical help with academic skill. What are the people helping? Why would a student volunteer with their peer programs? What are you getting out of it?
It's a lot of fun.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun, and we also improve our basic maths and literacy skills.
Yeah.
So I'm in peer maths, and it's made me able to do quick addition and timesing and dividing better than I used to be able to.
Yeah, because we sometimes forget the simple things, and so it sort of helps us with that. And I find that I do reading, and that just sort of, it's a way to know that you are helping somebody and learn what it's like from different people's perspectives. Okay, maybe they don't read like you do, so how can you change it, make it visual for them? And so you sort of get a real broader knowledge, and you learn so much from the fact of there's a few different ways to do the same thing, and that's what I find really cool about it.
More transport and access to areas and stuff like that, more activities,
Yeah.
stuff like that.
Yeah, more safe activities, so maybe a pop-up movie theatre, so you maybe somewhere,
Movies
Outdoor.
in the park kind
yeah,
of thing.
movies in the park and stuff like that. So we can go there, possibly set up a picnic type thing, I suppose, and sit there and watch a movie.
Yeah.
in our
Yeah.
friend group.
Yeah.
Like a lot of activities need to be organised. Like in Japan, after school, the government had like at all the local parks they had different things running so that kids could do extracurricular stuff after school, and like there was like basketball, team basketball, and it was all timed so that all the schools could like go out and do it, and like book clubs and drama clubs and all sorts of that. It wasn't run by the schools, like it's usually the responsibility of the school, and teachers don't really want to do clubs after hours, whereas there it was all like people who were like professional actors were teaching drama.
The schools can do as much as they can, but they need to meet halfway with the council, and I think that's why it works so well in somewhere like Japan, because they from one small town they brought so many resources, so you didn't have to go into the city to see a music festival. Like it could be closer and things like that. Go to things like sports, you don't have to drive so far. It's small, locally run things.
Yeah, like people came to them rather than us having to go all the way out.
Yeah.
There's a lot better communication.
Yeah.
There isn't really in the Hawkesbury. We don't really see our politicians or like principals from other schools or people who run parks and activities. We don't really get to meet them or communicate with them or give them ideas. They're sort of giving us stuff for us without like meeting us and getting what we want.
A movie night out in the park sounds kind of like a biggish event, but you're wanting some of those, but also maybe just
Yeah.
smaller
Just smaller
things
scale
that are
or
just more regular.
Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely.
Like on the weekend coming up, there's at the park in Kurrajong, they're having a movie night thing with they're just setting up like a projector in the park, and they're gonna have like little activities for like the younger kids to do there, and like food stalls and stuff like that, just to like try and bring the community together more. And yeah, I think we need more like a more tight knit community who's like in the separate areas in the Hawkesbury, like say Kurrajong and the Bow Mountain area. Like everyone within those areas are like they're generally tight knit and know each other and do activities there, but not everyone in the Hawkesbury has that connection to each other.
With the family groups and just it will allow us to get to know people from other schools, from different generations and younger generations. So we're not just sticking to the people at Colo or Richmond or things like that. I'm on the cattle team at Colo School, I should say.
Yeah.
And with that, as much as schools don't normally speak to each other, with the cattle team, you go to shows, you get to speak with all these different schools, not even just from the Hawkesbury region, from a larger, wider region. And you get to make really good friends with them, but you also get to share ideas. So we had an aquaponics system set up at school, and we helped another school set up an aquaponics system because we're on the cattle team and we got to know them, our teachers got to know each other, and we should do something like that for whole schools and the council getting to talk to schools.
It sounds like it's a mutually beneficial thing and shared interest too. Yeah, really cool.
With like the communication barrier between the leadership and us, like who they're leaving, they could sort of get like a forum for people to make their opinions heard and actually listen to it and say what they have to say. It's really one way, like...
Do you mean, can you just clarify who we're speaking, like leaders as in...
councillors,
Okay.
as well as like state politicians. Anyone who's making decisions about us should really be communicating with us. And if we say something, they should reply something that's like they feel rather than something automated or something. Because I often write in letters to council and sometimes I get like an automated reply, and sometimes I don't even get a reply. Yeah.
What kinds of things have you written in about? What makes you sit down to put, I would say pen to paper, but fingers to keyboard? And what makes you feel compelled to take action in that way? What kind of issues?
I'm like the leader of the environmental group, and there's not much going on about that, and I listen to like my family and the community, and they have a lot to say about what the council's doing and saying. And I wrote a letter about the new North Richmond complex they're building, and about the Windsor Bridge, and I wrote a letter about replacing the current Currajong Road Bridge, Balzana Road Bridge, from Richmond to North Richmond, and that sort of thing, yeah.
With getting teens' ideas out there, we should possibly have one day every, a week or 2 weeks, every 2 or 3 years, where teens can actually write in to the council, and the council actually looks at not every single one, but a fair few of them, and go through them and look at what they want in the cities and
a feedback
cities,
process.
yeah.
Actually taking our consideration to our area, really.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think also because, like, even though they may have similar things, like, yes, they probably do have an email, but how many of us know about that? How many of us feel like we've all used email before, but we don't use that as much anymore. It's not as, I think, as they've done the right things in terms of, yes, people probably can talk to council, but they need to take a more modern approach to it. I think they need to do things like making videos like this that would actually be a lot more easier for us to talk about, whereas, a teacher comes to us and says, do you want this opportunity? And so that's why we're here, because it's something modern. This is a modern take on the fact that, we have a say and everything like that. I think council would probably be open to it, but we just need to do not the stereotypical handing out pamphlets and emails, because that's not what we're used to and that's not what we're as comfortable with. And that's probably why they don't have the ideas now. It's just because that's not what we know. And I suppose, it would definitely be a lot easier to communicate things if it was just done a tiny bit differently. It wouldn't be a huge task.
Maybe if they came out to schools and had a discussion with us in person, then they'd understand better what we have to say.
Yeah, because that's how we've connected with other groups like local law enforcement and everything. They've always come out and talked to us, and that's when people listen, because they're there and we know that they're listening when we ask questions. It's not through that sort of third medium.
Recently, I was involved in like a community meeting kind of thing with some of the older generations from the Hawkesbury area and 2 other kids from our year from this school, and we went to the community centre at Currajong, and we discussed some ideas for council and things that we would like to improve, and certain issues such as safety out in with police members and law enforcement and things like that out in the area, and having more access to transport and things like that. And it was a really valuable experience to be able to sit there and listen to lots of different generations' ideas. It was only a small meeting, and it's just, I think they should have more things like that more
What was
often.
behind that?
Sorry?
Can I ask, what exactly was the, who
It
put
was
that together?
through the Hawkesbury Community Outreach Services.
I feel like when I say something, they feel like I'm just one person, and so what I think isn't what the whole community thinks. But I don't think they connect with the community really to understand what the community thinks, and they need to listen more to what people think individually.
I agree.
Yeah, because people aren't willing to speak up and say what they want, so they tell someone who will normally speak up, so the person behind me right now.
And as children, we're prone to getting ideas. We're sponges to get ideas from other people, and we hear a lot of what other people have to say from all places, because we're in a school with a really diverse lot of people, and all of them have like a different opinion, and we hear from like really everyone in the community, if like secondhand or not, like what they think. Yeah.
So by the time you actually write a letter, you've actually got the opinions of however many people behind you, even though it's just you writing a letter. You're actually speaking,
Especially since our school, like, since the area of, like, that Colo services is so widespread and there's so many different communities and we're all from different areas but we still come to this one school, and it's like we get a lot of different views and opinions from people that live in North Richmond, say, where it's more urbanised than it is like at Kurrajong Heights or something like that. And yeah, it's, you get a lot of valued opinions, stuff like that.
Possibly. I would focus on like town planning and environmental sort of issues. Here in the Hawkesbury, we don't really want to stray away from being rural with all the build-up that's happening with new homes being built and that. Don't really want it to get into a suburban type feel when it's rural.
Okay.
Yeah, definitely. I found that when I actually went over to Temple City, their kids have what the council are proposing now. The girl that I hosted with, she was part of a program where she shadowed one of the council members, and so when I went with her, we got to see the council in progress, them making decisions. How did they do that? What processes did they go through? And I thought, do we even have a council that does this? Like, because I learned so much when I was over there, and how many different positions that there are. And I learned about town planning, and I was like, do the Hawkesbury government even go through that? I assume they did, but we weren't taught that, and that's why I think the program could do so much. Like, and I don't even necessarily want a career in politics, but I think it's just like kids our age need to know what happens, because we don't know how those decisions are made, and we don't know what decisions are being made. And again, I agree with Eliza. I think a lot of the people who've lived here for a long time don't want to stay rural and sort of keep it the beautiful place that is the reason people moved here.
Okay.
I think teens should learn it, and kids, so that we actually know what the council is doing, and if we actually want to be part of the council, and then maybe go into a future career in politics. Because right now, as Sam said, we don't know anything about politics. Well, we do, but not enough about local politics to actually get into it and
to form an opinion, kind of thing. Yeah. Okay.
And we don't know how really to voice our opinion, like how to get our voices heard, because we feel as youth that like politicians don't really listen to us because our vote doesn't count. But I think what we have to say is important, and just as important as what voters have to say, even though we're younger. And I think they might be a bit backwards and we're a lot forwards in how we think, especially like socially and environmentally and technologically. I think there needs to be some sort of access for us into helping make decisions for our future, because we're going to be living in the world they create, and our say should matter.